Hello there. Hello. Is my mic on?
Sorry, buddy. I had you on mute. What's up? How are you?
I am doing pretty well. How about you?
I'm good. Just trying to last minute organizing for the youngsters who want to do stuff for today's meeting.
Yeah, look forward to that.
Yeah, so just 1 second. I just got a message. I got to finish up a message to one of the youth, okay?
Sounds good. One of them mute.
Okay, and Em, if you want to give some of the new guys the little blurb, we're just gonna give youth like a minute or two more to get on the call too, okay, panelists?
Okay, updated.
Can I go, Lily?
Go ahead.
Thanks for joining us today. The panel will start at 2:30 p.m. You are welcome to have your camera on or off. When listening today, please think of questions to ask the panelists.
And just so you guys know too, we're going to record today's panel so that we can share it with some of our other members later later this month. A few people can't make it today and they really want to be here. So I just wanted to let you know. So young people especially, now's the time to adjust your name if you are not comfortable with your name being out there. Because yeah, it'll be the video recording of it.
And if you have any trouble with that, Lily or I would be happy to change your name for you over here in our settings, because I know that technical difficulties are just finicky.
So just in the chat there, I've included the order that we're going to do the panelists today. So panelists that might be of interest to you to see what order we're going in, as well as any of the folks who are reading the bios. I don't see Amber here yet, and Amber is going to be one of the readers, so I'd like to wait for her. Hi, Emily Moulton, another cousin of mine, family affair.
So did you already post that list into the group chat? Because I'm not seeing it.
No? Yeah, I just posted it for everyone at 2:32. You're first.
Oh, okay. Well, I can work with that.
You don't see it there? What if I post it again?
Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, there's no spaces. Okay.
Oh, I thought I made it look like a list. Is it just like one long word?
Oh, you know, so I'm running this in the web browser because I refused to download Zoom to my computer, and so maybe it's not formatting it properly. But I see the information, so.
Beauty.
Beauty.
All right. Well, how about we get this show on the road? I have a feeling a few people are just gonna slowly get back into this. I know that it's kind of a weird week with school too. A lot of people have some final stuff. So yes, I'm very happy today to bring together friends, family, professional contacts, youth volunteers. Like, there's literally 7 different worlds colliding for this great career panel focusing on creative careers. I'm going to flip it over to Noah, who's going to do our opening statement.
It's the same one as last week, right?
Yep, and then the update is we're not doing breakout rooms this time.
Okay. Hello, panelists and youth participants. Thank you for joining us today at the Expanding Possibilities Career Panel. We have 6 professionals joining us today from a variety of careers related to business. Graphic design, media, photography, project managers. My phone turned off. This is upsetting. The event will go like this. First, a youth will read the panelist bio, and the panelists will speak for 5 to 7 minutes about their career path. A timekeeper will alert you when you have 1 minute left to speak. All panelists have shared their path. After all panelists have shared their path, we will not split into breakout rooms. And youth will be able to ask thoughtful questions to panelists, and we will wrap up promptly at 3:30 p.m.
Awesome. Thanks, Noah. So just for some of the youth, if you were on the last career panel, we split into 2 groups, but a lot of folks are wanting to hear from all panelists and get a chance to talk with them. So we're just going to be one big happy family, and we'll just have to get those questions in. If panelists have to leave at 3:30 promptly, that's okay. We can keep track of the questions that they didn't get a chance to answer, and we can send it to them, through email, and I can relay it back to you guys. So who had Adam? So I think we've got Adam. Oh, that was Amber. Okay, so I am happy to read it, unless Farah, do you have all the bios in front of you? Would you like to read Adam's?
Sure, yeah, I have it in front of me.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Adam Clarke is an entrepreneur and developer with over 15 years of experience. His focus has been on both interactive media such as games and augmented reality, as well as media-focused web and app development. He ran his own agency/game studio for 6 years, through which he worked with a number of local startups as their technical/team lead for hire. He's currently CTO of a social media startup called Playlog. And on the side, he's developing a platform called Streamed to help venues hit by COVID-19 put on virtual concerts.
Yeah, so should I just jump in now? Okay, yeah, I guess I'll just jump in. Yeah,
Yep.
so yeah, I'm Adam, and obviously you heard my little bio, so I'll just start from the beginning. Goes back to, I believe, 1997, where I played a game called Final Fantasy VII, where I saw it, and it blew my mind. And I didn't know what I was looking at, but I knew I wanted to be a part of it. And as I went through the years, I figured out that, oh, video games is an actual career option. So I'm just gonna do that. I didn't even know how to make video games at the time. I learned programming after I decided I want to make video games. Very much drawn towards like the creative storytelling and things like that. I went to Humber College in Toronto for their first year offering a game development course, and it was there were some learning curves there, not just for myself but also for the school. They were just starting to get into game development, and so they made some assumptions like game developers and application developers are going to be wanting to do the same thing, which is very much not true. The underlying technologies are similar, but the thought process that goes into the two are very, very different. So you can have, the example at the time was given is that an application developer might be really interested in optimizing the database for a hotel versus a game developer who wants to see things flashing on a screen. And it's just a very, very different mindset. So learning about the different areas of software development was a big thing. And then also learning the difference between developing a game and writing game software was another thing that was kind of missing from that at the time. The program was really what you call game engine development. So it's teaching you things like physics and 3D math and artificial intelligence, which are very, very interesting. And I highly recommend you look into it. But if you are looking to make a video game, what you're going to find is that you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You don't want to be making your own game engine. You want to know how they work, but you don't want to build it yourself. To a degree, if you're an individual, you don't want to do that. A larger company, they may hire engineers to build their own in-house engine, but even then, the people who are making the game are probably going to be different people than making the engine. So I started going to school for game development. In my second year there, I hit up my old pal Craigslist, find a job. Again, I was just kind of looking to see what was out there. And I happened to stumble across something where they were looking for a developer who had a basic understanding of physics. I was like, that sounds like me. Turned out to be an early stage game startup. They wanted to make a game that you could have action figures in real life, and you could be running around with the action figures and then something's happening on the computer at the same time. So they hired me to try and prototype things. And another strong lesson that I learned is that the divide between technical people and non-technical people is much broader than you think, and it's very easy for non-technical people to think that you have a certain level of expertise even though you might just be a junior. So what had ended up happening there was I was the only programmer not yet graduated, and there was about 10 or so artists, and there was a lot of responsibility, a lot of decision making put onto me, which realistically shouldn't be. So the project didn't go very well, but I definitely learned a lot about like self-directed learning and leadership from that. So that lasted for a few years, and then the company ended up going on what they deemed as a indefinite hiatus. The owner didn't want to close the company, but he didn't have any more money. So that meant that my contract at the time was still valid, and I was under what's called a non-disclosure agreement. So I wasn't allowed to talk about what I was doing. So I was hadn't graduated yet, and I didn't have a portfolio that I could use because I was under non-disclosure. So I was kind of in a sticky situation. And a third thing, which you guys are very lucky to have, is I didn't have proper career guidance either. I didn't know how to enter the game dev industry effectively, especially in the, let's say, the indie tier, the smaller tier. You'll see there's companies like Ubisoft and Rockstar and companies like that. They're like your AAA companies. They're the really big ones. Activision, that's more of corporate, and that's one stream. But then you also have what's really big in Toronto is the indie scene, where maybe you're by yourself, or you're with a group of people, or you're with a small company. Very, very different approaches in those two paths. So I was struggling to try and figure those out, and I ended up bouncing around back and forth. And during that, because of that bouncing, I had to do a shift from focusing on game development to doing web development. That was always my backup when I was pitching this to my family. And this was like, they're like, "Oh, you want to make video games?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, it's software development. So if it doesn't work, I can just go and do this." I didn't know what that meant at the time, but it worked for my family, and it ended up being the reality. So I started doing making websites on the side while I was trying to figure out the gaming stuff. And I just, as I was doing that, I kind of doubled down and said, you know what, I'm going to stop looking for work elsewhere, and I'm going to focus on finding my own work. And so that led me to forming a company called Throwaway Games, where we were a game studio, but we were also a development agency. So the strategy was we would have people hire us to make their websites and apps, and we would use that to fund our game development. Sounded good on paper, but what we found was that it's still a lot of work. You're basically trying to do well, when you're running your own business, you're already wearing multiple hats, but now you're trying to do two industries at the same time with a very small amount of people. So there's a lot of struggle there. It took a few years before we were able to release a game. We did, but even then, because that was our first game, we had to go through the learning hurdles of the marketing aspect of it, right? So hitting up bloggers and trying to get reviews on Steam and things like that, those are all things that we were learning as we go as well. One of the reasons why this sticks in my memory so much is because some of these lessons could have been learned through experience in the main gaming industry, whether it be through an indie studio or a larger studio. The experience of being with other people in your industry is invaluable, and it's one of the things that I personally, it took me a very, very long time to develop. Yeah. So, am I over time?
You are just a little over time. I really, really love the message that you're sending to youth about the importance of self-directed learning, about wearing multiple hats. I think we're going to just see so much more of that as the workplace continues to shift and go virtual, even if we're not in kind of a development sort of field, is having to wear all of those hats and knowing how to speak to your audience who might think that you're a god behind the keyboard, and you have to be able to advocate for yourself and say, I'm still a junior and I've got certain limitations. So I think those are really, really good messages for youth who are interested in many different types of careers. I want to remind all the youth, keep thinking of what your questions are going to be for the Q&A piece. Write them down so that if yours doesn't get answered today, we can still pass it along to our panelists. Thank you so much, Adam. All right, so up next, we've got Ashlyn. Is Emily's bio.
Ashlyn Vickey, social worker by day and passionate photographer by the evenings and weekends, focused on weddings and couples and experience in branding, concerts, and creative direction. You're muted, Ash.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for having me, Lily. Honestly, not really too sure where to start, but I guess I've been into photography as long as I can remember. I got my first camera when I was like 12, and it was just a little point and shoot camera. And I basically just started creating stuff that I thought was cool. In hindsight, if I looked back on those things, they probably weren't as cool as I thought they were, but that's fine. As of right now, I ended up kind of finding my way into weddings and couples. The wedding and couple industry is, until COVID, was pretty reliable, and that was an industry that you could book jobs for a good amount of compensation, and you would have jobs kind of locked in for the rest of the year. Unfortunately, with COVID, all of the weddings that I've had for this year have now been moved to next year. So that's unfortunate. I definitely feel for people in the creative industry that have had to kind of adapt very quickly. It's definitely hard to sustain when something like this happens, but who could have predicted it? I think some important lessons that I've learned throughout taking up photography is first, that you're going to have to work for free for a bit, I think, and maybe that's applicable to more creative fields. I guess I'm just experienced in photography, but I think to build up a portfolio, it's important to, gain that experience and just to reach out to people or events that you're interested in. So, for example, for me, it's tough because I'm interested in a range of photography categories. I love concerts, I like branding, I like weddings, I like personal shoots that are a bit more creative. But I guess if you have a direction, honestly, just like take it and go for it. If you like concerts, just hit up like local bands, hit up bands that you like. You'll be surprised that some of them like definitely will get back to you. One band in particular that I really loved is called Grandson. And when I sent them a message on Instagram, I did not think there was any way that they were going to respond back to me, but I ended up doing the photography for their concert in Hamilton, which is where I'm from. And that was awesome. So I think shooting for free, find what you're passionate about, and it won't feel like it's work, right? So shooting for free won't be that big of a deal. You'll know when you build up a portfolio that you can start charging. I think another important lesson is networking. A lot of jobs or connections come from networking with other photographers, other brands, other vendors in the field that you're interested in. So for example, like weddings, there's videographers, there's florists, there's people that like wedding planners. And if you can network with those people, that's definitely an opening for more jobs to come your way. I think another lesson is just taking advantage of the free resources that are available. So I'll list a few right now that I use. One that I find not many people know about is called Behance. It's actually an Adobe app. It's free to use, as far as I know. It's called Behance, and it's just a creative platform. I'd say it's kind of like a Pinterest, but just for people in the creative industry. And you can get a lot of inspiration and learn a lot from that. Something else I've used a lot is YouTube to look at tutorials. I'm not the most technical photographer, so I found that the tutorials were important for me to lean on to get an understanding of what gear I should have. And yeah, there's Pinterest and Instagram, of course. Those will have like ample options for looking at creativity. Let's see, what else do I have here? Yeah, I think in the creative industry, it can be really overwhelming sometimes. I think specifically photography, I'm sure it can be applied to other industries. You look at how many people might be doing what you want to do, or how many people, or if like you think the industry is, there's too many people, it's saturated, I'll never be successful. I think if you find something that you're passionate about, and you are committed to learning and committing to being consistent with it, that you can be successful with whatever you want. And that's something that I wish more people told me growing up, is that if you are passionate about something, you can be successful in it. It doesn't have to, you don't have to go to school, like university for it. You don't have to, get all these fancy qualifications. If you're passionate, you can do it. So definitely just keep believing in yourself, and don't give up on it. And that's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashlyn. Especially that last part of your chat. It really reminds me of what the definition of luck is, right? So luck is when opportunity and skill meet. And you're right. If you keep at it, if you keep sticking to your guns and meeting new people and accessing opportunities as they come up, whether it's through volunteering or doing school clubs, or just putting yourself out there in whatever way, that's when your skills will grow and the opportunities will align. And that's how you make the magic happen, especially in these creative type of fields where it is a lot of contracts and a lot of juggling, right? So I think you really gave some great insights on what it's like to juggle a lot of clients, as well as just being in that sort of maybe oversaturated field, or those hesitations that folks might have. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, so keep those questions ready for Ashlyn. Up next, we are going to be hearing from Alex, and Tanvi will be reading his bio.
Alex Hilson is a creative professional who started his career through community work. He loves working with individuals, finding out what is most important to them, and then helping them make their visions a reality. His clients in the past have included the government, churches, small businesses, and media.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I put media next to my name. I mean, it's tough to, and I think maybe some of the other panelists have experienced this, sort of tough to, with artistic work, to define necessarily what you specifically are doing and what you're specifically offering. Because I mean, art, it's such an emotional career path and thing to pursue in your life. You just kind of do what feels right. So I've been doing what I've been doing for about 10 years, and it's changed a lot over 10 years just based on what the need is. I kind of consider myself a community worker. I live in Acton, so it's just a town. It's about 10,000 people. We're part of the municipality, the town of Halton Hill. So North Halton, we're a small community, and I really enjoy working in that community. And I've done things through art to be able to stay in that community. So I remember when I was in grade 12, just being in chemistry class, my last semester, and I remember how much I just wanted to be out of there and to write a book. I mean, that, you know, which is such a, you know, funny thing maybe to want. It's, you know, maybe, I don't know if anyone here has done any writing before or whatever, but it's a hard thing. I ended up doing it in the end, but it's not something you can just write, go out there and you know, sell a book. It's a very, very tough thing to do. But that was, I think that's kind of my approach to the rest of my career. And thankfully that book idea wasn't very successful, but I've been fortunate that other things I've done have been successful, or successful enough to at least pay my bills and keep me going. So in my bio, you mentioned how I started in community work. What I did, it was when I left high school, I got together with a bunch of friends and we started a small nonprofit, just to raise some money, centered on youth, giving them opportunities to do talent shows, basically what we were trying to do in our town, because we didn't have that. And so we got together and we did that. And it was fun and it's successful, and it's something, it's Inspire Halton. So it's something we still do. I mean, gosh knows what's going to happen this year. But we've been doing annually for like 8 or 9 years. But through that volunteer work and a sort of event management, I started getting offered other roles to create posters and to create brochures and to write. I ended up working for our local paper here. So like Ashlyn, I do some photography, probably not to the level that Ashlyn does it. And it was just a sort of like, I didn't go in there as a photographer. I went there to write because that's what I like doing. But the opportunity arose, and people, like, if you can get in, if you can kind of get your foot in the door, because people trust you, because they start hearing your name, because they think that maybe you have something to offer through the network and the people you know, that then they said, well, can you take pictures? So then I learned, right? So at the moment I'm I know we're running out of time here. At the moment, my main time job is working for the Acton BIA. BIA is a business association. So basically there's a membership, there's a bunch of businesses, the town decides how many businesses are in that membership based on a bunch of criteria. And then through that, and we're talking this number of years, a number of different contracts, I was able to get into that position. I was able to just sort of contribute in whatever way through those little artistic skills. So I guess just to wrap up, I think a big part of doing anything artistically is to sort of just get started. You'll meet a lot of people who have a great idea, or they spend a bunch of money on equipment, but they don't want to actually put their sell the first painting or put their name on social media. That's the hard part. So I think for me, just to get started, doesn't have to make sense necessarily. You just need to follow your heart, give it a try, work. but you need to trust yourself. So I think I'll end on that.
Thanks so much, Alex. So I think too, one of the things that I've taken away from Alex's chat and just from my experience working with him is that relationships really are a huge piece of building your portfolio, especially when you're just starting out. And if you show up, for your community, you show up with that learner's mindset, you show up with a yes, I can attitude, people very quickly start to know who you are in the various spaces that you might be working, whether it's just from attending the events or volunteering or just saying, how can I help, or being interested. People will start to recognize that, because you know what? Not everybody's got that attitude. So if you can be counted on for someone to even just show up, like, that sets you apart, especially when you're young, because you don't have to be a youth engager to be kind of smitten by a young person's energy when they're passionate about something. So a lot of it too, it's about bringing the right heart to the table, and your community will wrap around you. It's not a perfect science, but I think Alex is a living testament to that. He gave his heart to Acton, and they have, in return, offered him so many opportunities to contribute that passion right back to the community. So thank you, Alex. He's a man about town, literally. Every time I drive on Main Street, I see him walking around. So it's one of my highlights of going to Acton. It's worth the drive to Acton. Sure. All right, so who do we have next? Okay, so we will have Raven up next, and I have Farah down to read her bio.
Raven is an Indigenous creative who has recently graduated from the Advertising and Marketing Communications program from Conestoga College. Raven found her love for business in high school, and in college found her love of design. As an Indigenous woman, Raven wants to design work that promotes inclusivity, evoke emotion, and to empower others.
Yay, thank you. Okay, well, Lily, thanks for having me again. But just to talk a little bit about, oops, sorry if you can hear the dinging. But just to talk a little bit about my story. So kind of bringing it back a little bit to high school. I'm not going to talk about it a lot. I didn't graduate that long ago, probably about 3 years ago. I don't know the age groups of a lot of the youth in here, but I know a lot of people when they're in high school, they don't really know what they want to do, what school they want to go to. I felt very pressured to like pick a college or university. I wasn't sure of the career I wanted, but I always knew that I really had a passion for business. In high school, I took an advertising class that I really, really loved. So I took the advertising. I was like, okay, I really like this, but I also knew that I was also a creative. So going into college, my first program I took was a portfolio building course. Also at Conestoga, it's called Design Foundations. You basically learn like all the concepts of art, design. You do like printmaking, photography. It kind of sums up like everything creative in one program. It's only 1 year. And from that program, I was able to grow my art skills, I learned about branding, photography, I learned about a lot of that stuff. And then I found that there was a program called Advertising and Marketing Communications, which is where it led me now as a graduate from that program. And basically it just smushed like advertising, which is the creative part, and marketing, which is the business part, together. It's only 2 years. It's a diploma, has a co-op as well. And I found that I did my portfolio interview for it. I got accepted, thank God. And I went onto that program. As I said, I graduated it. And through that program, I learned a lot about the creative industries. I was able to do in my last year it's like a capstone. It's like a really big final assignment that you do for an actual client. And I was able to do that for a realtor called Mike Grant. And I basically had to build a brand for him from like the bottom up. So I created the logo, I created the color palette he was going to use, what his social media would look like, what his website looked like. I wireframed websites for him. So that was really fun. And what I want to say too, obviously I am an Indigenous creative. It is part of my focus, but I also just want to talk about, you know, to everyone here who are not Indigenous. But things that I took away from college was to be open-minded to, as a creative person, you need to listen to other creatives. I can obviously tell there's a lot of creative people in this panel. Be open-minded to others. Don't burn bridges with other people. To network. And like Ashlyn said, if it's truly your passion, like you need to go for it and you just need to pursue it and go into it full force. Because I'm somebody who I definitely am like in a niche market, I say. Like what I want to do after college, like when I graduate, if I can get a job after COVID, you know, praying, is I want to work for Indigenous startup companies. So I want to do like all of their branding, I want to do their logo, manage their social media, but just specifically for Indigenous startups. So it is a really like niche, small market. And I know that from the start, but my professors were always like, you can do it, I believe in you. Like a lot of them had connections to places that had Indigenous people already working for them, which was nice. And then, yeah, don't be afraid to practice your skills as well. That's really important. I know others brought this up as well, but just to practice it. You can't get good at it unless you practice it, which is what I've been doing a lot this summer with like watercolor art and just trying to dive more into the whole art realm and world. Yeah, that's all I can think of at the moment. I didn't have like a script or anything. I didn't have like a lot that I didn't know what everyone else was gonna say, but I hope that gives enough info about it, what I was talking about.
Of course, of course. And people are going to be thinking up questions to have. So thank you for giving that snapshot on kind of your journey, and congratulations too. Graduating in 2020 is no easy feat. So yeah. I saw you did your virtual graduation with the Conestoga crew.
Yeah, that was weird.
Well, I know, I'm confident that you'll be able to land on your feet even in these kind of crazy times, because you're quite talented, and you know, a lot of the work that you do, you can do virtually. So I'd say the door's open. And there's a resource I want to tell you about. Angela sent it to me. It's like startup.ca/powwow pitch. And those are like where all these like Indigenous startups like conglomerate. So maybe that's where you find your first client.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, I'll find the website for you, dude. And the other thing that I really liked from Ravens was practicing your skills. So, you know, to relate, while I was in college, anytime that there was like something happening in school or in my peers' life that we could use these skills, we did. Two of my buddies, they were really into music world. And they're like, Lil, we're starting this thing called Music on a Mission. It's a startup. Basically, it's like iTunes, but all the money goes back into the community. We need your help. I said yes. It was like an unofficial volunteer gig, like totally grassroots, totally community. And that's where I got to pitch to media. I was on the radio. Like, you get to do these really neat things if you're willing to have that mindset of like, yeah, you gotta kind of practice first. What better way to practice than with people who are like, I need you to do it for free because we're startup, we're grassroots. And then you meet people who appreciate that sort of stuff as well. So I think it's volunteering and like the creative panel, like I feel like that message is even more clear and kind of intertwined, just given the nature of some of the projects that creative people work on. So thank you, Raven, for giving us some insight on your role, and I look forward to seeing where your next stop is. All right, so up next, we're going to be hearing from Sam MacPherson. We have Amber, who will be reading his bio, and so let's get that started.
So Sam MacPherson's jobs include founder, chief technology officer, and video game developer. He works for Bellwood Studios Incorporated, and his job functions include programming, business development, project management, and accounting.
All right, thank you very much, and thanks to Lily and everybody else for setting this up. So let's run over my bio, I guess. So my interest in video games, I think, kind of started in the 90s as a gamer. Used to play, you know, N64, Mario Kart, like Super Mario, StarCraft, Diablo, all these types of video games towards the end of the 90s. And my peak interest in gaming, I think, as a gamer, kind of came in early high school. I played games quite a bit, but it was around like mid high school to the end of high school that I sort of like was wondering if I could make these games myself, because I don't know, it's always been kind of an interest of mine. Like I used to draw like board games, like on pen and paper and stuff like that when I was a kid. So it was sort of a natural evolution of what I was interested in. So towards the end of high school, I got together with my one friend, and we designed a video game, a 2D shooter that we were going to make. And basically, we just learned all the skills ourselves online and put it together. So we released that, I believe that was grade 12. We put that game out there, and we got pretty lucky. It was actually fairly successful. Like we had several thousands of users who played it on a fairly regular basis. It was enough so that when I entered into university at the University of Waterloo, it was a source of money I could use to pay my way through. So I went into the University of Waterloo. This was 2007. As I wanted to take theoretical physics. I know, kind of unrelated to video games, but I kind of had split interests at the time. I kind of put my video game development on hold. We just sort of had the one game we put out in grade 12 going, and I basically just focused on school for the next 5 years. I really enjoyed physics, but it was about halfway through that I realized that I think my main passion was actually video games and computer science. So I actually ended up switching programs in about, I think that was third year. So I switched to a computer science major. I still did some physics. And then I graduated in 2012 so the game we released in high school, it actually carried us through a good chunk of university, but we didn't really tend to it that much. So it kind of over time just became less popular and kind of went away. So coming out of university, I actually didn't really have many job opportunities, like, because I had really not really worked on that much. So it was a bit of a tough time, but I found just by, you know, getting out there and meeting people and stuff like that, networking, I was able to get a job or two. Actually, when I first moved to Toronto just after university, Adam, the other panelist, was actually somebody who gave me one of my first jobs in Toronto as a freelance developer. So thank you, Adam. So I worked with Adam for a bit, doing other freelance work on various projects. I did all sorts of things, like, yeah, Adam's the MVP. I do work for like Poker and Bombardier and stuff like that. We have a lot of different clients. And it was around in 2018, 2 years ago, that I decided to consolidate with some friends of mine. We formed a company called Bellwood Studios, which primarily we're developing our own games, but we also do split our time doing work for other people to, you know, pay the bills and stuff before we get our first title out. So currently we are working on our first game title. We've been doing that for 1.5 years now. And we also do various client work. It's mostly web development. So yeah, video games are a passion, but web development is the one that seems to be very in demand right now, job-wise. I think that's about it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sam. I think too, you kind of bring up a good point, right? There's a lot of times you might be interested in a particular facet of video game development or computer science or creative work, and there's the bread and butter type of work, and then there might be a divide between like what you're super interested and passionate in, and just being able to juggle that as you start to grow and build your network. You know, it's like having that web development portion of your portfolio is the standard. That's what keeps you guys going and thriving, and then having that other work that you're passionate about too. So I think a lot of people are feeling that way, feeling that crunch, feeling that, trying to find that balance. And you know, sometimes you got to pay your dues. You got to get in there and take the work and still be able to reflect, right? Gain those skills. Think of it, instead of like dragging your feet and dreading your jobs, is what am I gaining from this outside of a paycheck? What skills can I have? Maybe I got hired for a particular job in this organization, but is there anything I can do to expand that a little bit? Hey, maybe you want to cozy up with one of your coworkers who has a different job function and they can teach you, or they bring you in on a project that might be of interest to you. So I think that's something to kind of keep in mind, is that we don't always get to do exactly what we want, especially right off the jump. Keep that dream though, keep it. But when you are kind of climbing up those rungs, take that time to reflect and go, I'm learning something out of this, and really make the best out of it, because people can identify that spirit as well, and it makes you someone that people want to work with. So thanks, Sam. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks
Looking forward to your title game coming out too. Great. I'll play it. Okay, and last but not least, we've got Victoria coming up, and so we've got Amber who's going to be reading her bio.
Victoria Ward is a University of Toronto graduate with a focus on art history. She has more than 3 years of experience as a project manager for a graphic design company specializing in packaging design and digital design.
Vicky, you're muted.
Sorry, am I unmuted now?
Yeah, you're good.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Hi, guys. Lily, thanks for having me. So basically, I'm a project manager for a graphic design company. I started out going to the University of Toronto. I graduated in 2012. And I always knew that I wanted to work in the arts. I went to a visual arts high school. Like, I've been drawing since I was a little kid. I just absolutely love everything to do with the arts. And for a little while after university, I tried, but in a way failed, to make it as an actual artist. A lot more difficult than you think. So I knew I had to take a different career path. And I knew I still wanted it to be somewhere in the line of visual arts. So basically I started off as a temp at a very large graphic design firm, and I worked for about 6 months as their receptionist. And at the 6-month mark, the vice president of the company came up to me and asked me if I would like to maybe make a lateral move and transfer into project management. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? I'll give it a shot. So basically, I never went to school for project management. You can. I know Ryerson has a very good program for it. We get a lot of our interns from Ryerson. But I just came in from the ground up and just worked my way up. So I started as a junior project manager, and then worked my way up over the course of 3 years to be an intermediate project manager. Basically what being a project manager entails, it's less doing the visual arts and the design work yourself, but you still have a very integral role in the outcome of the projects. So at my work, we focus mostly on packaging design. We've had some like very major clients such as Unilever. My favorite one to work on ever was Lego. But you don't necessarily have to go into a large-scale design agency like that. If that's not your cup of tea and you don't want to do something that's super corporate, there are smaller advertising agencies, there's startup companies you can work for. Like, your skills as a project manager are very transferable to different elements in the design world. Basically, as a project manager, what you're doing is you're a liaison between the client and the designers. So your job is to basically find out what the client wants and then have the designers execute that. And you are gathering all of the assets that the designer will need, and you're writing up reports for the designers that are basically detailed instructions on what they need to do in order to make your client happy and produce an excellent product and service. You don't necessarily need to have a designer background for this. It's really good to have a background a little bit in things such as Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. Most packaging design work takes place in Illustrator, and a lot of our digital design work takes place in InDesign, and our retouchers, they will all work in Photoshop. So it's really good to just have you don't need to be a master of all three or anything like that, but if you just do a simple course in it, so you have the basic fundamental knowledge of how to best help your designers, because ultimately you're the designer's biggest support system. You are setting them up in order for them to be able to create the final projects and making sure that everything is running smoothly. And you also have to have a very good demeanor, so that way you can talk to the clients in a nice, respectful way and make sure that the client is happy and the designer is happy at the same time. And yeah, so that was what it was like working for more of a major company. Unfortunately, ever since COVID, they laid off a huge number of our staff, myself included. So I had to make a move in order to still be employed. So I decided to start working for a small startup construction company that needed help with project management and the ways of marketing and web design, which again is sort of new for me. So I have a new learning opportunity in order to be able to do this job effectively. And I just basically wanted to just let people know that you don't necessarily need to be educated in the or have the degree and the job that you want. You can move up the ladder. You can have a successful career without having to get that background education. All of your skills are transferable, and you can take those skills that you work with and build with and move on to other careers and have those skills transfer to that as well. I think that's it for me.
Awesome. Thanks, Vicky. I think that's really important for people, especially folks just starting out in the working world, is thinking and knowing that your skills are going to be useful in lots of different iterations, right? You're working at the front desk of the Tim Hortons, customer service skills. You're enhancing your communication skills, which will allow you to speak better to different audiences. So as you start working, as you start volunteering, one of the tips I have is I've kept the job posting for places that I've applied to, like places that I've got the job, as well as with volunteering, and take their language and keep it for yourself, right? It's not easy to figure out, oh, how do I take this 10 hours of volunteering that I did and turn it into something that's going to be appealing to employers. Look up that original posting and use their language for them. Be that official get that translation down pat. And the other thing that I recognized from Vicky's is that you can end up kind of being on the behind the scenes in creative work. And so even if you're not the best drawer or you don't have that passion, you can still support the creative industry. Vicky is very artistic and she's very talented, but it reminded me of how I really wanted to support the drama club in college, but I was so afraid of improv. So what did I do? I was the treasurer and the promoter of the team. So you can kind of still support support an industry, even if you don't necessarily have that skill set. So any future accountants on here, any business-minded folks, and people like that, even just logistics, you can still work in the creative field and further that mission. So we have a few minutes to do questions for our panelists. Panelists, if you do need to tap out and carry on with your day, please just throw that information into the chat so that we know that you're leaving and we can acknowledge that, that you'll be going so that we can say bye. So who has a question that they would like to ask? Okay, Aiden got his thumb up right away.
Yeah, so this one is for Sam. So
Okay.
what advice would you have for like a starting game developer? What useful information have you learned?
Starting game developer. I would say you can learn a lot just by kind of learning on like self-learning as opposed to having to go through formal institutions. So, well, I did get some background in sort of how algorithms and all that kind of stuff works in university. It was really just sort of the self-starting in high school in grade 12 that I got most of my initial practical knowledge, like enough to build an actual game. I would say if you're interested, just go out there and just build it, like learn it and build it.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Sam. All right, we've got a question from Amber. It's for Ashlyn. Would you say that photography is a difficult industry to break into? Ash, you're muted, sorry.
There we go, sorry. I think any creative industry, maybe I'm generalizing, but from my experience, it is a journey and it does take consistency and some commitment to kind of build up. But like I said, I do like have a very firm belief that if you find something that you're passionate about and you continuously pursue it and don't give up on it, that you will be successful in it.
Yeah, always got to be grinding, keep going at it. Excellent. Okay, Tanvi's got her hand up.
This question is for Ashlyn as well. I enjoy photography, it's one of my passions. So I was wondering if you had any advice if I want just to develop that passion or improve my skill set in that area a bit more.
Sure. Do you have anything specific that you're passionate about in photography? Like anything?
I usually do nature photography, but I have experience with sports photography and yeah.
Okay. I think if you're interested in sports photography, I'm not sure what grade you're in, but if you're in high school, for example, just reach out to the coaches of sports teams, even if your friends play on those sports teams, and just go out and do photography for the games. Likewise, if you move into university or college, or you have any friends or family that are into sports, like you can develop. For me, I develop my skills through doing it, right? So just give yourself as many opportunities as you can to go develop that. If you like nature photography, go outside every nice day there is, or even better, I think the best pictures are on like a cloudy day or a rainy day, or like a foggy day. So just try to get out as much as you can. And yeah, just challenge yourself to do that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so Noah's got a question for everybody. And it's, how easy is it for you to do your job during quarantine? And so we'll keep it to like as short as you can. How easy is it for you to do your job in quarantine? And I'll go alphabetically. So Adam.
So it's pretty easy. We were pretty well working entirely remotely beforehand, but it's also very easy to lose some of your motivation if you're the type of person who is social and works better with others.
True that.
Yeah.
Alex?
Yeah, a lot of my work stopped when COVID started. I'm down quite a bit compared to what I was before, before early March. Um, because I'm working with the business association. I'm lucky I'm still on salary, so I'm financially covered, and so now I'm supporting businesses. It's been tough. It's been tough for a lot of people.
So true. A lot of Alex's work has been the in-person connecting with others. Okay, Ashlyn.
Yeah, it is definitely very difficult as a photographer. We had to stop doing our job, so it's definitely been taking a break and using it as an opportunity to kind of reflect on what I'd like to learn more of and diving into that.
Yeah, doing some at-home projects, maybe leveling up on some of the computer skills.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next alphabetically would be Raven.
I think in terms of the advertising and marketing job industry that I'm in, it is pretty easy to work from home because most of the time you just need a laptop and a phone. So it hasn't been like too difficult. But again, like Adam said, if you're someone who likes social interaction, like being in an office, it is kind of harder to stay focused, but it hasn't been that difficult. I actually enjoy it more than going into an office. So it hasn't been that hard.
Yeah, I don't mind working in my pajamas. Sam?
Yeah, so I've been pretty fortunate. I work in a field that is not really affected by COVID at all. If anything, business has actually been kind of better lately for whatever reason. But yeah, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, everybody's online now. Good for people who work online. And lastly, we've got Victoria. Oh, sorry. Let me unmute you. There you go.
Unmute. There we go. As a project manager, it's really easy to make the transition to working from home. The only issues is that maybe the VPN is giving you slower server access to the workplace. But apart from that, it really depends on the clients and like what kind of role that they're taking right now during COVID. Some of our clients were booming and absolutely crazy, and there was so much work. And some of our clients kind of dropped off the face of the earth because they just couldn't sell their products for whatever reason during COVID. So it's really sort of up in the air and very client reliant.
Thanks, Vicky. I keep calling you Victoria because I see your name written like that. I don't know if I've ever called you Victoria prior to this day. Awesome. And thanks for that great question, Noah. We've got another question in the chat here from Angel. He's asking, question for everybody. What was the biggest risk? What was the biggest risk that you've taken in your career to get to where you are now? So I think I'll do the same thing as last time. We'll go alphabetically. So biggest risk in your career, Adam.
So probably the biggest risk was deciding to work for myself with no experience, no mentorship, and no money. Yeah. Would not recommend doing that exactly the same, but you know, it's possible.
Thanks, Adam. Alex?
Tough to pinpoint one specific risk. I'll say that a lot of the work I've done, I sort of say yes before I think about what I'm saying yes to. So that a lot of the work I've done, I'll commit to it, and then I sort of think, you know, maybe a month later, oh man, how am I ever going to be able to balance this or to do this? So I think that's the risk, sticking with it, and it usually works out okay.
I'm a yes man as well, and sometimes I see what's on my plate and I'm like, really? This was my bright idea? But you grow through it, so it's good. It works. Ashlyn?
I think similar to the first two is just saying yes and agreeing to do something when you have either no experience in it or you're not sure how it's going to pan out. Like the first wedding I did, I said yes to it and kind of created like a pricing guide and did the whole day up, and I had never done a wedding before. So yeah, just saying yes and taking on that challenge.
Yep. You got to challenge your growth. Then we got Raven.
Yeah, so I think probably one of the biggest risks I've taken is kind of just, my profs always say it as get a job before you get the job. So I feel like I did my co-op at a place I wasn't a big fan of, but it was just a job before I get the job I really want. So you kind of have to take a bunch of like not amazing jobs that you want to get where you want. So I think that's the biggest risk, is maybe doing a job you're not 100% passionate about in the beginning, but you know it will get you where you need to go eventually. But to a lot of people, that's really scary, and they're like, I want this job, I want this specific job right away, and it's like, you gotta work from the bottom. Like Victoria said, hers is a really good example. So.
I agree. Yeah, it can be risky to go, oh my God, is this how I'm gonna spend like 40 hours of my week? And I'm not like, will I be able to do that? You gotta look big picture. Sam.
Yeah, so I think the riskiest maneuver I probably did was maxing out my credit card to move into the downtown Toronto and frantically running around for a month trying to get any work. But it worked out.
I feel like that is like a quintessential like Toronto story too, for all the transplants to Toronto, is like the rent. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty high, but there's lots of opportunities in the downtown.
It's that give and take.
Yeah.
And Vicky.
Sorry, I was muted again. I would say the biggest risk that I took probably was, while I was already a project manager, but I was just a junior, and it was just taking that leap to take on clients all by yourself. I worked on like the plain packaging design for one of the major cigarette companies, and I did that one all by myself for the first time. I had no senior project managers, nobody helping me, and it was just throwing myself into it and just being able to take control of the situation for the first time. And I would say it definitely paid off, because I got to transition into more of an intermediate role after that.
That's awesome. I know we're a little bit over time. How's everybody doing? Do we have time for one last question? The one that Farah's posed? Is that okay? Okay, folks, so the last question, it's also for everybody, is what's your biggest career goal now? So we'll go alphabetically again. So Adam, you're gonna kickstart us.
It's kind of hard to, I'll try and be concise. I want to set up multiple streams of income so that I'm not reliant on my career to sustain me. Basically, the days of you have your job and you work 9 to 5, then you retire, I feel is over. And because we have things like the internet, we're able to, especially as a developer, set up a number of side businesses. You put in the work to start, and then you put them online and you just kind of let them go. And so hopefully I can do that enough so that I can pick and choose what projects I want to work on, and I don't have to worry about, am I going to be able to pay my rent? Am I going to be able to eat? Because that will be taken care of elsewhere.
Yeah, get the bread and butter set and in the easiest way possible, so that, yeah, you can cherry pick where your passion and your heart is.
Exactly.
Awesome. Alex?
Yeah, it's a very tough question. I would say one of my major career goals at the moment, the Acton BIA, the main organization I work for at the moment, we have a large street festival. Last year we had like 15,000 people, and it can't happen this year. So my goal at the moment is seeing how we can provide sort of an alternative, maybe online, as a placeholder event. So yeah, that's trying to be successful with that is my goal.
Right. I think it's important too, like for people to think of the short-term goals, long-term goals, and kind of have a lot of different ones that you're juggling through personally and professionally as well. I think that's important. And Ashlyn?
Yeah, I think for me, I would eventually like to pivot away from weddings and maybe do some work for some bigger brands. I think one of my main goals is to do something for Vans. Perhaps do some album artwork for some new artists, and then kind of move into more of a creative direction role.
I could see that. I could see that for sure with just the color tones that you use on a lot of your art. And then let's go over to Raven.
Okay, so one of my career goals, as of now, I have a lot. It is a hard question, but right now I would say it's definitely starting my own business or my own like little side hustle that I want to do, or I want to like launch it, I guess, like start it at the end of this year, which it's a greeting card business. So I want to launch it near like November, December, so everyone can get like their Christmas cards and like New Year's cards and stuff like that. Yeah, that's one of my biggest career goals.
Oh, let me know when the site launches. First,
I'll let you know, Lily. It's gonna be
right here. Awesome, thank you. Sam?
Okay, so this is a little outside the scope of game development in particular, I guess, but my largest sort of goal in my overall career is I want to kind of change the world in some way for the better, in the intersection of politics, technology, society, that kind of stuff.
Whether it's fact checking or helping enhance our voting system, Sam's got a lot of big ideas, folks. He really does. Awesome. I can't wait. And Vickey. Sorry, I keep muting you because there was a background noise. So sorry, that's me that keeps muting you. My bad.
Okay. As far as career goals go, I guess it's more just sort of the immediate future, working with this new startup construction company, just making sure that I can use my skill sets as best as possible to make sure that I get the marketing right, make sure that I get like the web designs right. Because again, this is totally new territory for me in like the realms of project management. So if I can just sort of, you know, make it through this and just stay goal driven and career driven, I think I could definitely, hopefully contribute to creating a very successful startup.
Amazing. I love it. I love just the variety of messages that you guys have given everybody today and just all the different paths that you have taken to get here. For anybody who cares, my big career goal is I basically would like love to like run a small town. So like have like this massive complex community center that is like a social development center, youth drop-in, small business development, like daycare. I want it all in one great big community space. And I could just be out there seeing all this magic happening and just empowering people to lead wherever it is that they would like to lead. So that's my goal. So without further ado, we had a really great panel. This is our last panel for now. We did 2. Thank you so much to the panelists for coming today, for colliding all of these worlds together. And thank you to the youth for your thoughtful questions and for reading the bios. Youth, if you guys could just stick around after we say bye to the panelists, I just wanted to give you a quick little update before we wrap for today. So if everyone could just unmute and thank our panelists for coming today, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's my privilege to hear from you all. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, and panelists, if you have any emails or Instagram handles that you want the youth to reach out to you at or to watch your work, you can throw that in the chat and we can connect everybody together. Awesome. Thanks, Adam, Sam. Thanks, Vicky. Thank you, Alex, Raven, and Ashlyn. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Lo. It was fun.
Awesome. Love this.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Lily.
Yeah, no problem, Vicky. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Okay, thanks, youth, for sticking on the call. It's just a quick reminder that we are looking for people to write little thank you blurbs about the panelists. I've also upped how many points you get for sending in a thank you blurb. So it's 75 points per submission. So if you did a little thank you for all 6 panelists, that's a huge chunk of points. It's still anybody's game for the points to win 2 $50 gift cards to Staples, but it's also just like a feel-good activity, right? These panelists took time out of their day to share their good stuff. So if you could send those along, that'd be great. Josh, did you have any other feedback that you wanted to give?
So today I noticed that we were very, very sensitive for time, so I kind of let you do most of the facilitating for. I'm very happy to be here and listen. I've been taking some notes as to who has been asking some questions. I'll forward that off. But as I understand, we are a little bit over time. I will not take up too much more of yours. So please, if you would like to submit a blurb, raise your hand or speak out in chat. All right, so I see you there, Amber. So I am going
And
to.
then Tanvi and Noah, they did the raise hand feature, so I don't know if you can see that on your screen, Josh.
I can now. So I will note Tanvi and Noah. And please feel free to do more than one blurb since there are 6 participants, panelists. But also I'd like to give everybody a chance to jump in. So if you haven't, please raise your hand. And if you've already raised your hand, please lower it for a little bit. I've noted that. But want to see if there's anyone else who wants to jump in. All right, so I see you there, Iman. Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who would like to hop on with an emoji or a hand raise?
And I'll send a prompt to all of the attendees from today's group, just so that you can be reminded. Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Next Monday's event is actually just like a mindfulness activity. So it's just kind of to help us kind of decompress from a crazy year virtually doing school and all this hard work that you guys have been doing with volunteering. So we'll walk through some relaxation techniques. We'll have some really chill music going. And yeah, we'll just come together for a really positive and tranquil space. And that will be the last Monday event. We'll have a 2-week break. And then when we start back up in July, Josh will be taking the lead with an Indigenous literacy game that we will be participating in for 6 weeks. So anyways, thanks so much, guys, and I'll talk to y'all soon.
Before we go, if you'd like to do another blurb, could you please raise your hand again and I'll note that.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I see you there, Tanvi. I'm just going to note you down for 2, but please feel free to do more. I see you there, Amber. So I will note down that you would also like to do another blurb. All right. Thank you all so much. Is there anybody else before we hop off? All right, so I'm kind of going to like count us down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, it doesn't look like it. If you change your mind, let Lily know, and take care. Thank you.
All right. See you later, everybody. Have a good Monday.
Bye.
Could you please stay on for a little bit longer? But everybody else, cheers. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Amber.
Bye.
Bye, Mon.
We'll see you all in July.
Thanks, Andy.
I just have a question for
Oh, yeah.
the Indigenous reconciliation thing. So I was wondering if there is any way I could submit my challenges other than Instagram, like because I'm part of the Creative Spaces Google Classroom, but I haven't seen any like posts there, so I'm not sure if I maybe another classroom or something.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
There.
Yeah, I'm just behind. I'm behind this week because I was trying to tidy up the classroom as well. But then I got sick last week at the end of the week. So Tanvi, yeah, to answer, yes, you can email us the answer for now. But going forward, I will be tidying up the classroom so that people can find the resource there. That's a great question.
So would that be like my Creative Spaces costume?
Yes.
Yeah, it's all the same one. Yeah. So it's really messy in there right now.
Oh, okay. Would you mind sending me the code? I'm not sure if I'm on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So we'll just make a note of that. And yeah, tomorrow I'll be doing lots of tidying in there. So we'll get you all loaded up. Okay, Tanvi?
Yeah, I hope you feel better.
Yeah, I do. I feel already a little bit better. I just needed to chill. Like I've been flying since we started with this quarantine, trying to switch everything online and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, just like everybody else, I've been busy and just needed to prioritize that self-care. So I think I'll also be needing this mindfulness activity next Monday. I think that will be helpful.
Thank you guys so much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tanvi. All right, I totally get you. I have not been practicing self-care at all. It has been grind, 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 grind.
Oh my God, I know, I'm checking in on everybody. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, okay, I need to just chill. So it's been important. Yeah, sorry, we just kind of switched it up last second with the breakout room. So I do appreciate you being on the call and getting to hear from creative people. I know you're also like interested in graphic design, so hopefully
I'm interested. It's one of my preferred careers.
yeah, so hopefully you didn't feel like, oh my God, why am I here? Your spirit is
to be here and show my support and help out.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I think that went really nice. It was just great to see so many different people over the last 2 weeks who were able to share about their careers. So I think that's good.
Really special. I'd like to take some time to talk about our game because I actually haven't heard anything about what the game is going to look like. I've read through the document and it gives a good brief outline.
Mm-hmm.
So will I just be making it from the ground up there?
Yeah, so it's just called a game because there's like points and stuff associated with it. But essentially, you will be having a 1 hour meeting 6 times. The 1 hour meeting is like a discussion that you'll lead on a topic with some opportunity for people to ask questions and to be facilitators as well.
It's 1 hour meetings and let people facilitate. I was really hoping that we could elaborate on this in our Thursday meeting this week. And that we could start using those Thursday meetings to strategize for our upcoming game.
It's different though. That's different. But it can still be giving some insight because that's the Thursday group. You're going to be the new Monday.
No, not our Thursday Creative Spaces team. Thursday morning meetings between you and
Oh, okay. I was like, they're going to be all similar, but like it's your own thing. Okay, yeah, of course.
Well, I actually think that I could build a game from the ground up without any guidance. I don't think that would be delivering the best possible product.
No, I think it's
with guidance, we could create something that would be better than the sum of our parts.
Mm-hmm.
But it really depends on like how good you want this to be, how much we want to put into it. Mm-hmm. And I know you're a go-getter, so I was hoping that we could really make something special.
Yeah, and I think what might be useful as well is if I share with you the previous edition, like how I did the game, so you can see like here's what a typical agenda looked like, and then here were the tasks that were associated with it. I think
I think that'll be really helpful. I like the smiley face in your name. I just noticed that.
I know, I'm just a big old cutie, okay? Yeah, so I think that'll be will be helpful. So I'm gonna add that to my list here is to just share the past game materials. Maybe I'll start a new folder for you in your Google.
Yeah. Running through that with you, I think would be super helpful for me. Well, I know it would be super helpful for me.
Yeah, I think that'll be good. Yeah, because I think once you get the ball rolling with it, you'll go, oh, okay, this is good.
Because I think for the challenges, I mostly have the hang of it and kind of have everything planned out. I just need to do the graphic design for each week. And I don't think that it was maybe marketed as aggressively as it could have been leading up to it. It may have taken some people by surprise. So we'll let you know, and I'll post the next series of them actually as a post. Should I do it only as a post or also as a story?
I think doing a post and a story is great.
Right.
And either today or tomorrow, if you want to do a post for week 1, go right ahead. And I'm going to just load those tasks in now without the Google Drive being tidy and just say, screw it, just get it in there. And then that'll be like as many bases as we can cover, really, right?
And like I mentioned earlier, I think that a lot of people will be inclined to not give their digital space to something other than the very important movement that is going on. I know we have a lot of young activists. I'm very proud of that. And I personally would not feel comfortable interrupting that activism with this challenge that, while very important, the issues that the challenge is ideally addressing are being addressed by this movement. So I think that is much, much, much more important. And I think that is why we are not seeing maybe as many people in addition to the marketing. I think those are the two things that I've identified, although by nature there are probably or almost definitely things that I have not identified.
Yeah, and you know what? It sometimes that's just the way it goes. Like it's a pilot. We're trying something new. We brought it up at every meeting last week. It was in the team emails. We put it in lots of our meeting notes. We did the prep. We tagged our partners. So, you know, we're doing our due diligence. And I think you really kind of nailed it with just fortifying our marketing and just given the current social environment, right, where people are wanting to do a different cause. So it's all good. We'll keep trucking along, and I know we'll get a lot of people who contribute. And I mean, if anything, we could just not make it like, okay, Thursday, week 1's done, totally out of the running. We could just open it up and go, all 4 weeks are open. Right? So that if people hear about us on week 3, they do the other challenges. Like, I don't know if you're into that idea, but I'm happy to wiggle that way too.
I've heard that making something time limited increases participation, although given that there isn't a whole lot, that may be something to consider. So
I'll leave it in your court if you want to.
Might be a good idea to have them still release weekly, but the ones for previous weeks are still kind of unlocked.
Yeah.
So they kind of unlock weekly, but you can still go back to the other ones if you'd like to.
Yeah, I think particularly in the Google Classroom space, right, where it's like our own youth, we give them that chance because then they're going to be leading into the Monday game. So I don't know. I think at least in the classroom, I would like to just have that open for the whole entire 4 weeks. But however you want to pose it online, you just let me know, okay?
That sounds good. Starting with week 2, I think I'll have them unlocked.
Okay.
Because for week 1, I already have like a set date established in the marketing, and I don't really want to confuse people.
Oh, true.
But we haven't put that out for number 2 yet. That goes out this Thursday, so we certainly can make that all open. And I'll also maybe adjust how we do the prizes a bit and how those draws work to open it up a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's worthwhile, right? So sometimes you just got to pivot, right? You got to pivot on the spot or the week of, just based on how things are going. So I think this will be just like a good opportunity for you to adjust and adapt accordingly. So you just let me know how I can be helpful as we continue to do this. And I'll get the things in Google Classroom right now before I close my laptop for the day.
That sounds really cool. And I think that mostly consulting and helping get the ball rolling on the game. Like once I have a solid base of knowledge for what's expected, like with the challenges, I am mostly able to operate independently. Although for this game, I have never designed anything like this before. I feel like the experience I already have intersects very well with experience as an Indigenous person. But I think that really some guidance kind of formulating the base there and learning from our past experiences, like what we did with the challenges, would be nice.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yep, I just didn't want to go too much into the game until you got some of the other stuff under your belt. So I think taking the time this Thursday at our check-in meeting to just focus on the game, I think will be a really good use of time. And it gives me a little bit of time to collect all of the proper documentation and maybe just getting that loaded in for you as well.
I'm really excited for that. To prepare for our game development, if you look in my calendar, actually the first note in my calendar, I actually have a half-hour break and 2 15-minute breaks as per my contract. I take them consecutively so that they don't mess up our schedule, because usually I'm busy in the mornings and then after 2 p.m. So I figured that it might be easier for everybody if I take them all in one block instead of a 15-minute break in the middle of a call.
Oh, are you not in the union then?
No. Well, technically I'm not in the union. I'm going solely based off the information in my contract and also the things that I've heard from Angela and yourself.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, because when I was looking at the, oops. Yeah, because there's other information, but I guess it does just depend on what type of employment. Because here with here, let me just show you what I was looking at. Right. So part-time employees are allowed 1 15-minute break for each 3.5 hours of work, which in a 7-hour day would be a half an hour.
Yes. I'm trying to find the form, my terms of contract, but basically my contract outlines 2 15-minute breaks and 1 half-an-hour break, which I think are intended to be taken like 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 1 before you leave. But I think it might be easier for everybody's schedule if instead of many small breaks, I just have one block one there at a regular time. But also if we have like a call at say 12:30, I can move that around a little bit. I am afforded some flexibility. Angela actually instructed me not to really worry about that at all as long as I get work done. But I certainly understand that having a regular schedule is very, very important.
Sure. Yeah, no, I just wanted to just make sure, because just to kind of like get a good understanding of how this is all going and everything. So it's not a big deal. I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page, because in my contract, I'm only given a half an hour. So that's why I wanted to make sure that it was clarify, because I don't have your paperwork.
I'm actually really glad that you mentioned that. That way I am going to double check.
Yeah. Well, it's just because also too, we've got like, we kind of took Friday off, right? Which, you know, I don't know. I just want to just be in the loop as well, so that you don't feel crunched for time. Because then I was like subtracting the time and I'm like, you know, I just want to make sure you feel like you have enough time to do this stuff as well. So yeah, anyways, it's not a big one. I just wanted to flag it. And yeah, there's so many different layers of contracts and affiliations, union, non-union. I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Absolutely, but I am technically not a union member. I'm actually technically not even an employee. So although I am subject to the terms and conditions of the contracts and cannot violate any of those codes, the specific policies often don't apply to me because I'm technically not an employee. So as a contractor, I agree to those terms and conditions, but also some of those deviate as per my contract.
Yep.
It's a little bit confusing, and I spent an entire day twisting my brain into a pretzel trying to figure it all out.
I know, there's so many, and the weird thing too is like they've got managers are not part of the union. Like I don't know, so it's like there's a lot of different rules for a lot of different people. So anywho,
anyways, back to that, I just wanted to clarify really quickly.
Yeah. Yep. So as long as you've taken a look at what they're requiring of you, then that's good with me. And I'm just gonna get that stuff into Google Classroom for you, okay?
And I'll admit that I'm mostly doing that for my own sake so that I don't get contracts mixed up, because they all use the same font, they all have the same kind of header, and they all have the same title page.
Exactly.
That's no problem at all. The thing that I was going to say after that, really quickly before you go, I have blocked out some time in the next few weeks for dedicated game research, So once we build that platform of knowledge, I have some time locked out to work on it. And I have started work on a ticket system where basically an activity will award a certain number of tickets or points. And these tickets are basically just like a fancy graphic way of keeping track of that. We'll also have a spreadsheet, but I'm sure that you would like to tell me all about that on Thursday, not right now because you wanted to do the Google Classroom thing, and I'm sure are very busy like me, so I will not take any more of your time. Thank you so much. I like those buns too. Look a little bit like Princess Leia.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Okay, I'll get all that stuff for your game ready, or for the challenges ready, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you so much. I really look forward to that. Peace, peace.
Thanks, Josh. Bye.
Each ticket's luck. All right, bye-bye. I won't babble on. Button for Zoom.
You know me, I'm a Babylon Brook too.
Zoom always does this. I say that I'm leaving and then it makes me hit the button again so that it's like, okay. And now.